Welcome to this webinar. This is Planning Your Marketing Career. I'm Neil Wilkins, and I've been looking after this fortnightly webinar series now for quite a few months. And if you are back here again, listening to this particular episode, welcome back. It's lovely to see you. You'll know the process. You'll know that we do a Q&A. If we have any questions as we go through this, pop them into the chat or the Q&A box, and hopefully I will get to those as we get to the end of the session. If you are brand new to this fortnightly series, this is Marketing College's professional and personal development program, we can call it that. We've been running multiple webinars over recent months, and this is a big one. This is a really significant one that we want to really share with you because it really is quite a poignant moment, I think, in a lot of people's careers. And whether or not you are starting out on your career path, or you are a fully fledged, very wise and experienced professional, and you are looking to really kind of sort of kick on from where you are, we have got some special stuff for you here today. So this is all very much about supporting you with ideas and I guess you could call it a little bit of a process really for planning your next steps. And this is with the big picture in sight. Okay, so this is hopefully practical guidance and advice. And we tend to intersperse these sessions with a little bit of topical sort of technique development as well as personal development. And this is where, in this particular episode, we're going to get quite personal. So this is going to be very much around you. So I'm hoping that you're going to find some really good benefits that will actually serve you personally, quite significantly. So what I want to cover is what I'm calling an 8-point career plan. Okay, so if you have keyboard at the ready, or if you have paper and pens, if you're in a more traditional offline sense today, I'd like you to kind of really be thinking about how these 8 building blocks that I'm going to share with you will kind of piece together to give you the full jigsaw puzzle, if you like, because a lot of these things we tend to do in isolation. So as we're kind of thinking about where do we want to go in our career, if we're thinking about what are the options available to me, if we're spotting that the marketplace is changing, or that our particular skills and experience are offering up something new, we often don't have a plan template or a kind of a framework into which we can put all of our ideas. So that's really what I want to share with you as we go through this session. And I'm calling it our 8-point career plan because I'm going to take you step by step through the 8 points that I've created here, which I think will hopefully by the end of this give you a really good template from which you can, from this point onwards, start to kind of fill in some of the details that are very personal to you. So what I'm going to talk about is creating and visioning, if you like, your ideal day in the life of you. Okay, now not a lot of us do this really in a really sort of conscious way, but actually creating something that really kind of gives us the vision of where we're headed, this kind of ideal career, job, experience, maybe something that involves your personal education, whatever it happens to be that is kind of in the mix for you right now in terms of your personal development. Positioning it and visioning it in an ideal sense can give you a lovely kind of sense of understanding as to what this is going to feel like and be like when you get there. So I'm going to talk a little bit about reverse engineering from the end goal as we go through this. I'm also going to talk, and we're going to touch on manifesting your dream career. This is not a pipe dream. There is a huge, huge impetus now on taking control of your destiny, if you like, when it comes to plotting your career. So we're going to talk about how to kind of manifest this. And it isn't a pipe dream. This is not something that possibly is always available to us. All of these kind of opportunities go in cycles, but we're in a really strong position now as employees, as consultants, as entrepreneurs to really take control. The ball is in our side of the court, to use a sort of tennis analogy. So we'll talk about that. I also want to spend a little bit of time talking about what I'm going to call the extended marketing mix of us, because some of the marketing theories that a lot of us are aware of, and things like the marketing mix, we can actually turn back on ourselves. So I'm going to take you through an extended marketing mix that will give us a lovely checklist, really, really powerful checklist for all of the building blocks that we need to put into our career plan. Okay, and you'll be able to then take that away and go and start to fill out the details and give yourself some quality time with yourself to really think through where you want this to go. I'm also going to talk about showcasing and developing a portfolio career. I think gone are the days, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, gone are the days where there is the option of a job for life. If I think back to my parents and probably my grandparents, and even sort of further back than that, a job for life, which was something that everybody basically wanted. Everybody kind of thought that that was the ultimate. That kind of thing really doesn't exist now. What we have generally on offer to us is a portfolio of experience, and we're going to then be able to craft a portfolio and craft a journey and craft a career that works for us rather than being subservient to employers. Okay, so there's an interesting kind of dynamic change that has shifted in our favor as employees or as sort of people who work within a business or organization. I'm also going to talk about continuous development. This is super, super important. We can't do this just solely based on what we have today. So we're going to need to think about how are we going to upskill, what kinds of things are going to be relevant as we develop our plan, because literally from this point forward, you can't unknow what you now know. So we're going to be looking at the kinds of things that are going to serve us into the future and the kind of sort of commitment that we have to put into this from a personal development of us perspective. We're also going to talk a little bit about personal brand. I have covered this in previous sessions, and I will cover this again because it is really, really critical to kind of realizing the big dream, because a lot of what we're going to talk about here is an ambition, it is a destination, it is a desire to get from where you are today to a point in the future, but you have to support that with a practical reality of who you are and what you are. So this is going to be talking about authenticity. It's going to be talking about, can you match the real you with your desires and your ambitions? And then I'm going to talk a little bit about pivoting, because as a result of going through this 8-point career plan, you might come out at the end thinking, hold on a minute, I'm going to have to change where I'm headed because it doesn't really fit where I want to be. So some interesting sort of steps and choices and decision points on this journey. So this is what I'm going to cover with you. And I'm hoping as we go through this, and if you have any questions, obviously fire those through to me, and hopefully I'll cover those at the end. But hopefully this is going to be quite an interesting little journey for you to go on. So the first thing in our list of 8 points here is the ideal day in the life of you. Okay, so gone are the days where we have to have a long commute, we have to sit in an office or sit doing a job, or get the tools out to do a particular function or activity. And it's all about the person who you're serving. It's all about your line manager. It's all about the boss. Today, in today's career world, in today's kind of commercial environment and professional environment, it is very much about crafting your ideal day in the life of. Okay, so what I'm talking about here is, do you, and these are questions, these are rhetorical questions I'd like you to kind of think about, possibly spending a little bit of time with yourself, thinking about this in kind of a quality, kind of quiet time, and maybe bounce these ideas off of trusted others who you would sort of take counsel from. But one of the questions I'd like to ask you is kind of, how do you see your kind of future day, if you like, in an ideal sense, be for doing work that you do? So for me, as an example, I never use the word work. Okay, I call the things that I do professionally projects. Okay, they can be big projects with clients, they can be small projects, which might be, producing some content for my own personal brand and profile, but it's not work, it's projects. So my positioning, if you like, of my ideal day in the life of Neil is all about actually working with my projects, large and small. and then crafting a day or a series of days around those projects. In other words, where do I want to be? Okay, so physically, where do I want to be? Now, it might be that I want to be sitting on the beach or on the hillside, halfway up a mountain. It might be I want to be sitting deep in a woodland, or I might be wanting to sit in the middle of the city in a cafe or in some offices with some clients. Wherever that is, and it might be a mixture of those things, that is going to start to choreograph the positioning of my ideal day. So what is it I want to be doing? But also, as far as the doing is concerned, what do I also want to be being? So there's doing and being. So being in kind of what sort of sense of self do I want to have as I'm in my ideal day? How do I want to be feeling as I go through my ideal day? So a lot of this is kind of, it's some practicalities of the location. It's kind of what kit or tools do I need? But a lot of it is more subjective. Who are the kinds of people I want in my ideal day in the life of? And so could I kind of vision, if I was to sit quietly with my eyes closed, and if you're used to meditating, maybe you just put this question into your next meditation. Or if you're not used to that, maybe you just sit quietly and think, what would an ideal day be? What kind of time would I be getting up in the morning? Or, where would I want to be headed? Do I want to just be at home? Or do I want to go to a specific location or locations? What would this look and feel and smell and taste like? Where would I be and who would I be with? So not specifically what job am I doing, but much more about the experiential part of this day, because the job and what you're doing can be infilled later. What we're looking for here is kind of in an ideal day, as I'm plotting and kind of envisaging and visioning my ideal day in my career in the future. What would this feel and taste like? Where would I be? Who would I be with? What would I be kind of doing? Not so much as a task, but as an experience. Because once we can get our mindset around that, we're starting to take some control. We're becoming accountable for actually what our heart desires in this, because a lot of this is less about the thinking and more about the feeling. So our ideal day in the life of is a critical first step as we start to build this kind of narrative with ourselves over, okay, where am I headed with this thing? Because if I can get a sense of this, I can then start to look backwards and think, okay, so back to now where I am today, how many steps? How different is this from where I am right here, right now? And you might find, actually, you're living the dream already. And in which case, it might just be a little bit of tuning or maintenance of what you have, or it may be just expanding certain areas and doing certain things. And for me, it is about spending more quality time around the kind of the lunchtime. I used to do a lot of exercise at lunchtime. So I'd go for a mountain bike ride, or I'd go for a big long walk, or I'd hit the beach if I could, if I was close. I'm not doing so much of that right now. So for me, even though I am living the dream as far as I've defined it, there are things I can still tune. So it never goes away. This is part of a journey. But what we've got to do is almost set an ideal destination in the future that will begin to kind of guide us in the right sort of direction. And again, it's about accountability and responsibility. And one of the tools that we can use to really kind of get a grasp on this as we go deeper and deeper into this feeling of the experience of what we want as part of our career going forward is we can use a tool called Ikeguy. Now, you may well have come across this. I know I've talked about this a number of times. So for those of you who are quite familiar with me and my work and what I talk about, you'll know that I'm really passionate about Ikeguy. If you haven't come across it, do a search on this, because you need to kind of really understand what this is about, because this is a very useful tool that will allow you to kind of do that deeper dive with some really tangible evidence. Okay, because it's all very well sitting there and thinking, oh, let me just, vision my perfect day, and then you get back to doing the day job. What I want you to do is actually take some tangible steps that you can taking forward. And Ikeguy is one of those tools that allows you to do that. So what Ikeguy does, it's a concept, it's an ancient Japanese concept that means your reason for being. Okay, so when we talk about envisioning and actually getting a sense of where and what and how you want to be experiencing your career in the future, we can use a tool called Ikeguy to identify this kind of sense of purpose into the future. Okay. So this is a really, really important thing to do, because if we're just doing things that we can be paid for and that we're good at, well, that's just our profession. We might not love it, and actually the world might not need it. If we're doing things that the world needs and we can be paid for, but we're not actually in love with it and we're not particularly good at it, well, we might call that our vocation. If we're doing things that we're good at and that we love doing, but we're not really finding a way of being paid for it, and actually the world doesn't really need it, but we just love it ourselves, that's a passion. It's not truly going to be part of your career plan, probably. And if we're doing stuff that we're good at, we can be paid for, but actually, it's kind of missing the point, because actually we should be really ideally doing stuff that we love, that the world needs, that we can be paid for, that we're also good at. And that's the essence of Ikeguy. It's things that you love. So do a mind dump. What is it I love about the elements of my career or where I'm looking to get to? What am I actually good at? So what kind of skills and difference can I bring to the world? Can I be rewarded for that? It isn't necessarily just paid for. It could be other measures of success. But what can I be rewarded for as part of this mix? And actually, does the world need it? Very interesting example just come through in the chat. Ahmed, thank you very much for that one. Done that as far as the Ikeguy is concerned, wanting to be a video game designer, and Ikeguy using this process. So that's great. So there's an example already of somebody who's actually used this Ikeguy process to get a little bit more of a sense of direction and purpose going forward that has a value to the world, that can mean that you're rewarded, that can allow you to develop some skills that you're good at and actually resonates with your passions and the things that you love doing. So think about Ikeguy as helping you to kind of give you that sense of kind of where you're headed. Okay. But heading to a destination kind of misses the point about planning your ideal career. Okay, because actually what you can do, and I can speak honestly and authentically from experience here, because I've been down this road, is that the best kind of career planning is the moment that you start thinking about this stuff, it actually begins to happen. Okay. Now, the way to manifest your ideal career, this kind of ideal experience or this ideal sense of being and delivering value to the world, getting rewarded for it and doing something you love and that you're quite good at, the ideal scenario is where you remember that the minute you start thinking about this stuff, you're already on the journey. Okay, and it's the journey that's more valuable than any kind of perceived ultimate destination. In other words, don't think of a career plan as being something that I'm going to aim for. Once I get there, I will be happy. It doesn't work like that. This is about opening this box, starting to think about some of these tools, some of these ideas, some of these ways of thinking and feeling, and then knowing that you've just taken the first step on the journey. And there's no looking back, because once you open this stuff up and you start to feel the value of this stuff, then it starts to get super interesting, because you realize, okay, I've only got to put one step further, and then I'm actually really properly on this journey. All right, I'll take another step, then maybe another little step and another little step. And you find that actually you're already doing it. So the art of manifesting your ideal career is to begin the journey with yourself, of sitting quietly, doing that mind dump, using Ikeguy to kind of get that sense of what would my ideal set of moments be in my career? Who would I be with? What would I be doing? What kind of place would I be in? What kind of tools do I need? How do I need to be communicating? What do I look like? What do I feel like? All of those building blocks you can begin right here, right now. And ultimately, that is Ikeguy. So Ikeguy is not this future dream. It's about living in the present. And once you figure some of these things out, you can start to use and live with some of these things. And I'll explain how that might fit in with your current reality a little bit later. So manifesting is about feeling it, not just thinking it. Okay, so when you are quiet with yourself, I don't want you to just be making a mental list or a physical list of, oh, I want to do this job and I want to do this task and I want to be sat in that office and do it almost quite robotically. I want you to get a real sense of how it feels if you imagine And if you sense what it would be like in the moment, doing that, being there, because manifestation comes from the feeling of things, not just the thinking of things. And by doing that, you're already doing it. Okay, so you are actually living and breathing it from the moment you vision it, from the moment you feel it and sense it. It's already started. Okay, you might say, well, I'm not actually there, Neil. What are you talking about? But in your mind, energetically, you've already created that imprint. So it has begun. Okay, and the journey is the journey. We're all on this journey. We're all on a journey. The beauty of this is you can choreograph it. And the joy of actually being on the journey is that you can enjoy now a consistent mantra or a consistent theme or a consistent picture and sense of what it's like to be that person in that situation, doing those things with those people, using those tools, sharing that experience and getting rewarded for it. So there's a lot of kind of feeling that goes into this. If you were listening to this at the start thinking, oh, this is going to be a checklist of stuff I've got to do. Well, it kind of is, but it's so much more than that. And I can say this, honestly, from personal experience, the minute I kind of figured out, with help from quite a few other people, the minute I figured out that this is actually a journey, it's not a destination, everything changed. And I realized actually that I was achieving a lot of what I was visioning from that moment onwards. So it isn't something you wait 20 years to get, then you get it, and then you retire. That's not what this is about. This is about living and breathing it from your very next moment onwards. And as I say, once you've opened that box, you can't close it again. Once you know this stuff, you can't unknow it. Okay, so let's go a little bit deeper then. I talked right at the start here about this idea of an extended marketing mix. Now, if you're familiar, as I know a lot of you will be, with the marketing mix, the old traditional product, place, price, promotion, and there are many, many others. I've counted about 14 or 15 that I've used over the recent years. So there are lots of these P's, okay, product, place, price, promotion, and all of the others. I want to focus in on a few that I'm going to say to you. Imagine if you had a mirror in your hand right now, turn it to you. Okay, so if you are a marketer, for example, and you're responsible for a marketing mix, so you're responsible for products, positioning them in the market, doing some promotion, all that lovely stuff. You've got to get the right people in the right place. You've got to make some profit, all of those lovely things. And you're used to doing it for a product or service. Stop. Turn it on you. You are now that entity. You are now that brand. Okay, this is all about you. So we're going to use the extended marketing mix as a checklist of P's: product, price and profit, place, promotion, purpose and priorities, principles, people, personas, positioning and proof. Big long list. We're going to whiz through these, but this is your checklist for things to think about to help you to get the little building blocks, the little modules, the little moments of inspirational ideas that will allow you to take further steps on that journey of this career plan. Okay, so bear with me as we go through this. If you're very used to using the marketing mix in a kind of a professional sense, then this shouldn't be too difficult, but you're going to have to be honest with yourself. Okay, so a lot of this career planning is about honesty. It is about recognizing you're not good at everything. None of us are. It's about recognizing you don't like everything. None of us do. So what it is, it's about really listening to yourself. This is about going inward, identifying with ego. And ego isn't a negative thing. Ego is a sense of self. And once you stop and listen to yourself and you think, come on, Neil, be really, really honest with myself. Which bits do I want to exclude from my career going forward? Which are the bits that don't serve me? I'm not very good at it. I don't really tend to get rewarded in a general sense of it, and I certainly don't love it. Which bits do I want to take out of the mix? And which bits really qualify in? Things that I'm already identifying with. Or maybe there's some gaps, and gaps are fine because you can plug those gaps a little bit further into the journey. So let's go through these one by one and see where we get to. So let's talk about product first. Okay, you are the product now. Okay, so you are in this marketing mix. So in the product, a couple of questions or 3 questions I've got for you. What's your special value? Okay, so planning your career, you've got to know really what's your special value. What do you bring to the world? What is your, and to use a marketing phrase, your USP, your unique selling point? What is it that makes you, you? That, you know, somebody else who's got all the technical skills over there, they got the same technical skills as you, but they're not you. So what is it that makes you different? We're not trading on tech skills here. We're not trading on even necessarily the length of experience or anything like that. So if you're a senior manager here listening to this or watching this, you know, what is it that makes you special? Where's the value? And it might be the wisdom that you have. It might be how you communicate, but it isn't probably going to be the technical skills, because those can be replicated by that person over there, or this person here, or that person down the street. So what's special about you? And as part of that question, I'd like you to think about, who are you really? Let's be really honest here. Who are you? Because if you're trying to manifest this ideal, this perfect career path, this perfect journey to enjoy all the best bits, the things that you're good at, what you can be rewarded for, what the world needs, if you're on that journey, you're going to have to be super honest with yourself. Who are you really? And it isn't necessarily the you that's sitting here watching, listening, thinking about this right here, right now. It could be your childhood you. Now, I don't want to get all psychological process here, but a lot of this comes back to the authentic self, the authentic you. And a lot of us are in jobs or in careers or on a journey that actually doesn't resonate with the real you or the real me. I've spent, and I'm proud to say, I've spent some 35 years in an industry that is completely at odds with my authentic self. So I am I would say a profound introvert. I get all of my energies from within. I enjoy being with people. I enjoy doing conferences and networking and being a marketer, being a communicator, doing webinars. But my sense of self is deep, deep, deep inside me. Okay, so I'm not an extrovert in any shape or form. I am a true introvert. And yet I've lived 35 years in a career path, on a career path that isn't really me. So where's the real me? Well, the real me was the little child at the age of 5 or 7 who used to play by himself out in the garden, in the backyard with nature. That's the real me. So I've got to make some choices here. Is the real me the one that I want in this career path going forward? Or do I want to play a role? Because a lot of us in our careers, we play a role. We kind of act a part. Now, I'm not saying that's right or wrong. It's a choice. And that's the beauty of this career planning, is it's very personal to you. So who are you really is a question I would ask there. But it is, what's your special value? What is it you're bringing to the world that makes you different to others? Because as you plan your career, that's going to be a huge plus in this whole mix of things that we're going to be focusing on. The next P, and as I say, I'll go through these pretty quickly because it's important you get a sense of what they are, but you can then do the thinking about these a little bit later. So the next one is price, but I'm going to call this price stroke profit, because what's your price? Okay, what is your price? How much is it that the world has to give you back in terms of a reward? What is it that you're expecting as a return for the value that you're bringing? What's your price? And can you afford that price? And that's why I put profit in with price, because if it's going to cost you, for example, to serve in your career by traveling 2.5, 3 hours a day, and that's going to physically cost you, does the price match the cost of being that particular person professionally? Can you afford to do it? Can you afford to jump on those international flights? I'm not talking about a sustainable eco question here. I'm talking about a monetary question here. Does your price actually match the value, but also the cost of being that person? Because ideally here, you need to be trying to put something in your career plan that is a win-win. In other words, it's not going to cost you so much versus how much you're actually going to be rewarded. Now, of course, if you're working for yourself, so you're an entrepreneur, self-employed, you're a consultant, so you have clients, you need to get your pricing right because you need to be making a profit. But it also applies as an employed person on a career path. Can you afford to be the person that you want to be? So price and profit comes in quite interestingly. And it is a big, big thing that a lot of people miss out on. They just look at a particular role or a particular sort of career and they think, oh, look, that's how much salary or that's how much package I'm going to get. Great. My life is going to be wonderful because look, that's well paid. And they miss the subtlety behind it. Is it a win-win? Could you put your price up because actually you add more value than that particular role is in place? So can you actually get to that physical location? And now a lot of us are working remotely a lot of the time. Maybe the cost of serving and the cost of actually that decision has come down. So maybe there is more value to be had. There is more profit to be had in here. It's for you to choose. Next P is place. Where do you want to be? A lot of us have over the years kind of chased the jobs or chased employment around our country or even overseas. But does it match your lifestyle? Remember, we talked at that very, very first moment I started this conversation, we started talking about where are we wanting to be, physically, where are we wanting to be? So does your career path actually match the lifestyle that you're looking for? Is there going to be a balance there? Because career path, if it's going to start right here, right now, you need to be kind of doing it and being it from this point onwards. So the big question is, where do you want to be? And it's not where do you want to do, it's where do you want to be? So it needs to be matching lifestyle. It needs to be matching leisure time. It needs to be matching where family, friends, your partner is. You've got to be thinking about this stuff quite deeply because that will have a profound impact on some of the decisions going forward. Next one is promotion. You are not, unless you're in a very, very extreme example, you're not going to be able to do this one by yourself. Okay, so we've got to have the promotion P in our own personal extended marketing mix. So where are you going to promote this value that you're bringing? Now, for us in the UK, a lot of us would instantly be thinking, well, it's LinkedIn, isn't it? Obviously, it's LinkedIn. That's where the professional networking happens. But it could also be a personal networking, a face-to-face networking. So, promoting yourself out in the real world, getting the right connections. I'll talk about other people in just a moment. But the whole kind of networking thing, what are you comfortable with? Is that part of your makeup? Is that part of the mix of how you're going to get out there and start to actually live this new career style, this new different lifestyle that potentially you've had before? In promotion, can you, if your product, your offer is strong enough, can you be a thought leader on a particular topic? Now, that's a really key one. I don't want to use the word influencer because that's got a lot of baggage, but a thought leader, that's an interesting position because that can grow over time. Influencer has the implication that you already have to have a following. Of course, you could be influencing one person and you're an influencer. So what about thought leader though? That's a different kind of position. Is there a topic or something that really resonates with you that you could really own? Plotting a career path with thought leadership as a real theme or a thread that goes through it, something that you love, that potentially you can be rewarded for, that the world needs, that you're actually potentially quite good at as well. Can you see there's a pattern here? What is the Ikeguy of your thought leadership? If I put you on the spot right now and said, okay, you have to be a thought leader on one topic, what is it? There's the question. I'm asking you the question, rhetorical question, but I'm asking you, if you had to be a thought leader now, what would that topic be? And it's an interesting one because it does, again, put you on the spot. And this is what this is about. It's about having those honest conversations with yourself and then identifying kind of how am I then going to share that with the world? And you might want to get a little bit creative. A lot of people right here, right now, are using TikTok in a business sense, in a professional sense. It's moved on. Literally in the last 6 months, it's moved on from being, dance moves to now being a professional network. So it's always about with the promotion and the actual, sharing your ideas and your life journey here, your professional life journey with the world through new and emerging technologies. So this is really, really interesting. Interesting contribution on the chat from Ahmed saying concept art for games. Oh, I like that one. That's really good. And I want to lead in this topic. Perfect. Go for it. I would say absolutely go for it. There are specific topics that will really resonate and you will feel it in your heart. When you think of it, your energy will rise. That's what you need to be focusing on as a thought leader. It's absolutely the way to go. And yes, it is about sort of positioning yourself sort of effectively so that you can retain a position. And it doesn't matter that there's other people doing it. Don't feel that it is all about, oh yes, but I'm not going to be the best at doing that. It doesn't matter. This is your journey. Take ownership, be accountable. This is about you understanding your journey. And this is the bit that's unique to you. And that leads seamlessly onto the whole idea of purpose and priorities. The big question is kind of, are you ready? You might be listening to this and thinking, okay, this is all great, but I've got a job to do. I need to make some money. And I'm not saying that you're not. But what I'm saying is that having opened this box of, there could be a bit more control out there. There could be something a little bit more exciting out there if I start to answer some of these questions for myself. The answer probably with are you ready is actually yes. You probably are ready to take the next step. So we're not looking to bundle this together into being this one all singing, all dancing ultimate destination. We're saying, are you ready to take the next step forward? And if that next step forward is just spending time thinking about this stuff, then I'd say, yes, you're ready. And I don't think there's going to be anybody who isn't going to be ready to take that first step and then see where that takes you. That's the point. And the question is really, what else is in your mix? It is about priorities right here, right now. If you have young children that you need to serve, you've got to bring those into the mix as well. If you have a partner who earns more than you do, and you have to kind of play a supporting role to them, and you're both happy with that and it's working and you're loving it, then great, that's where you are right now. The question will be, obviously, is, but where next? What is that next step? Because the world is in constant flux and change. We know that. So we know that, change is a constant. So where are you going? Where are you going to head? And as the world moves on, you've got to move on too. So it is about taking that ownership. And the next P is principles. When you start to identify that, I've identified that I want to be this person, I want to be doing this kind of thing, I want to be doing this kind of stuff in this sort of place, the next step will be, okay, well, I've got some choices here, because look, that company over there, they've got this particular role and I like the look of that. That would solve many of my challenges. That would be the kind of person I want to be. That's where I want to be working. But then you need to just double check in with the principles P, because do the values of the role, of the people you're going to be working with, of the brand that you're going to be serving, do they align with your values? That's a key one. I know a lot of people are getting quite sensitive in a good way about this particular question right now, because it is so, so important. Do the values of what you see there, do they align with yours? And understanding what your values are, again, there's another question. Go inside, figure out what's important to me. What do I actually put on a pedestal that's really important? A lot of people are saying it's the whole eco question now. It's all about sustainability. It's all about planet. So again, what is your take on that? Having a view of all of these things and being really awake to this stuff is absolutely crucial. This isn't about blindly going along, not really understanding where you're headed. This is all just about being awake and aware. And as part of that, the next P is people. The people P. You will not be able to do this in isolation. You'll want the support of others. You'll enjoy the support of others. So what kind of mentors do you need? Maybe somebody who's gone on a similar kind of journey to you. Have a conversation. Do you want some advocates along route who are saying and just giving you a little bit of support as to kind of where you're going? Do you need a coach? Often, people from your industry, peers, friends, family will be willing to coach you and just give you that sort of sounding board. Do you need somebody who's going to be a bit of a conduit and actually help you to get into a particular role or a particular organization? And what kind of supporters do you want around you? Your close team. Who do you need? Who do you want? And I would always say it's people who get you, okay? It is okay in small doses to have people who are going to challenge you, but this is all about supporters, okay? Not necessarily just the yes people in your world, but the people who have got your back, the people who are going to give you that objective, honest view about how it's going and what they see. So people who are going to be honest and authentic with you in your communication. So be careful who you choose, but do choose. Make sure you get a nice, neat little kind of team around you that are helping you, that they know your journey, they know where you're going, they know what you're up to and where you're headed and what you're liking and what you're looking to avoid. And so they get you, so they can give you that third-party perspective. And the next P is personas. So who do you actually want to work with and for? So as you go through this visioning, when we started this conversation, it was all about, okay, can you see forward as to who, you're going to be with and kind of where are you going to be and what kind of things you're going to be doing and being? Can you kind of envisage those people? Because I would say it's very, very likely that if you can get a really clear persona profile of the people you want to be working with and for, you will attract them. You'll spot them. You'll see them in your travels and you'll think, oh, hold on a minute. Is that coincidence, luck, or serendipity? Nope, it's my plan. It's my journey. I'm on the journey and I'm seeing the evidence. And you will be amazed if you take this choice, if you take this invitation and do this, you'll be amazed how many times you will see stuff that you'll think, well, that was a bit lucky. But of course, as we know, because we're manifesting here, it's not luck at all. It was destined to be because you've already started on that journey. And so it is about the next P, which is the positioning one. This is the penultimate one. It is about being visible. So positioning yourself, it's about being accessible. It is about giving without expectation, being super helpful. So if you see an opportunity on this journey to this destination, as you're enjoying every step in this career growth, learning and blossoming and growing as an individual, it is also about giving and giving without expectation, being really, really helpful. And again, you will be amazed about how much that will return to you in ways that you can only imagine. So this is not going to happen, as I said a number of times, in isolation. The more you give, the more you will get back. And of course, this is the final P, proof. So constantly refueling yourself with just being aware and watching that, whoa, I took that step and look what happened. And my gosh, I've just met that person. And look, they introduced me to this thing here. And wow, how did that pop into my inbox? And you'll be in awe. Honestly, there is almost like a childhood innocence about this process. Once you begin it, you will find that things will really surprise you. And you'll be amazed about how did that happen? And that thing just appeared and joined up with that. And you'll just be there like aghast at some things that will happen. And it's because you've started this journey and you are totally mindful and aware of the process. It is as simple as this. This is not rocket science. It is quite straightforward. Once you put all these building blocks into place, things and magic, I'll even use the word magic, will happen. So when you get proof, constantly refuel your journey, take it on board, own it. It's for you and it is about you. Okay, so as you're planning all of these elements and you're kind of filtering in and out the stuff that's important, stuff that's valuable, stuff you're good at, stuff you love and stuff you can be rewarded for, make sure if you get evidence that you share it. So if you see a really, really good example of something, share it. Create a portfolio of stuff. Some of it you can keep private, but the stuff that you feel, do you know, actually, it's really important I share that because I want people to kind of see that, almost that sort of personal brand evolving of me. And that is going to be very much evidence-based. And that takes us into what we might call the sort of, in effect, an online showcase. Okay, now if we just use as an example LinkedIn, because a lot of us are now using LinkedIn as a really strong organic content showcase, and we're doing this because it is very much an evidence-based portfolio of us. And I would say go and revisit, go and look at it now to what you have, and just from the basis of all the things that we've just been talking about, critique what you've said about yourself. So look at your profile, look at the summary of what you say. Can you skim read it in 30 seconds or less and get a sense of who you are, where you're going and the value you bring? You know, are you really kind of writing it in a tone of voice that resonates with that authentic you that we were talking about? Can you answer, if you were a visitor to your page, could you answer the questions about yourself? You know, what is it that makes you unique? Are you sharing that? You know, where is this person's career or sort of business headed? Can you see that from the profile? You know, how would you be described by others? Can you see that in the profile? And what are the values and personal traits? Because I want to be able to kind of get a sense of that if I visit your profile. So having an evidence-based portfolio that evolves over time, this is more than a CV. I think you're probably getting this already. It's important to have, you know, the chronological order of the experience that you've got, who you worked for and who with and what your job title was. But this takes it to that next level. It truly does. This is the stuff that will help people who need to be in your journey find you, spot you, see the value and connect with you. And that's really what we're looking for from our online showcase. So as you get insights, when you do these deep dives into yourself, listening to all of the feedback that you give to yourself, these are some of the things that you then need to be refreshing. And I would say if you're not constantly in your LinkedIn profile, constantly updating it, tweaking it, and just improving it as a result of the feedback on your journey at every step, you've missed an opportunity. So this is super important stuff to do. And I would say I'm not just preaching this, I actually do this myself. So I've actually set on my browser, as the homepage on my browser, I've set my LinkedIn profile. So I promise you that is the truth. And what I do is it just keeps prompting me, is like, okay, make sure it's up to date. Okay, yes, you reminded me again. And for a lot of us using browsers, you know, all day, every day, that's a lot of times in the day that I get this constant reminder, keep things fresh and up to date. It's so important for our own kind of momentum and driving this thing forward, but also for the world that sees our progress, because we're doing this kind of thing in public. And it is about commitment. It is about creating a bit of a portfolio career here. So that might for you be that you've got a side hustle. It might be that, you know, you are doing a particular job, and I'll call it that, but the job isn't the Ikeguy. The job isn't the ultimate thing that you want to be doing. So you've got a side hustle, and, you know, everybody's happy with that. You know, it's all going fine. It might also be that actually your career is your portfolio, or vice versa. Your portfolio is your career. So it might be that, you know, if you wanted as part of your Ikeguy to be an influencer in a particular thing, then it is your portfolio that's the story. That is the journey. That's what you're sharing. That's what makes you an influencer. Or it could be that you've got some very specific technical stuff that you want to put into your career. So you need to do some side hustles to test it out. Or you need to do a course or an MBA or whatever it happens to be to run in parallel alongside it. So a lot of this is going to require some commitment. You know, we've opened the box now on your career planning. You can't close the box because you've opened it. So you know there's some opportunity in there now. Well, you could, but what a thing you'd miss. And of course, when we commit to this and we think about this, there are so many different ways we can cut this. For most of us, we've grown up in careers where we've gone to a physical location to be with a certain set of other people, to create products and services that we take to market, and we make money from it. We get paid, we go home, and we have another life. That was the old model. The commitment in the future career planning now looks to blend remote working with face-to-face, but potentially in the not too distant future, there'll be some new stuff and new opportunities. I'm going to use the word metaverse. Is there an opportunity in here for you to do a blended thing? Could you actually provide remote, almost this whole thing about, you know, there's service coming out from me whilst I sleep. So I give this 24/7 self-service kind of course or piece of content or whatever it happens to be that is actually part of a side hustle that's taken me to this particular point in my thought leadership influencer positioning. So there's a whole bunch of stuff going on here, and it's just about being mindful, being aware, being sort of conscious that this is all potentially quite relevant if you just keep it open. So it is about being committed, but it's also about being very kind of open-minded. And as part of that, what we need to be very, very aware of is as soon as we take those first few steps, we will identify that there could be weaknesses. There could be a lack of experience. There could be things that we need to infill. Now, if we're in a management kind of role, often we can plug the gaps with getting a specialist in. But if we're focusing in on ourselves, we probably want to be constantly mindful of continuous professional and personal development. In other words, continuously, and I'm talking continuously, I'm talking every day, we need to be thinking about, how did I develop today as a professional? What did I learn? What did I experience that went wrong that I can kind of say, yeah, I've learned a lesson there. And from a personal perspective, kind of, yeah, was my day today better than the day yesterday? Have I grown as an individual? What kind of skills have I kind of put into place? So I would say, here's a nice little challenge for you. And these things can be very short, bite-sized and tiny. But I would say every single day, see if you can, as part of this career planning kind of identity that you're setting up here, see if you can identify a new technical skill that you could learn every single day. A new personal skill, or just maybe a tuning of something that you've always done that you think, oh, if I do that slightly differently, do I see a different outcome? What could you learn every single day? And if you're taking this to a technical level, because you might be thinking, hold on here, I'm changing everything. I'm moving into a completely different kind of lifestyle, location, job, and everything. You might need to do some technical development. So what qualifications would serve me? And they might be little YouTube tutorials all the way through to a full-on MBA or something big like that. And the other thing as well, in your continuous professional and personal development to think of is my personal network. It is about you learning for you, but it's also about you figuring out who is going to help me en route to where I'm headed, who is going to help me get to that next step of my journey, who's there to kind of give me that feedback. We talked a bit before about the people and the personas, but who is in my network right now? Who do I need in my network going forward? So a lot of questions, a lot of things to really kind of be thinking about that will drive into what I'm thinking here. And this is also a very, very interesting little exercise, is it kind of culminates really in your personal brand. Because if you were to go away, and I'm not suggesting that you've got the luxury of taking a weekend away or a week off or whatever to go and sort of sit in a cave and kind of, mull over all these things. You might have them, great if you have. But if you haven't, there will come a point where you've gone through enough of these questions and heard enough of the answers and felt enough of the responses inside you to kind of get a sense of, actually, I am a personal brand. I've got these skills, I've got this experience, I've got this network, I've got this stuff I can offer. I know what I'm good at. I know what I want to be. I know where I want to be. I know what I want to be doing. Can I match now how I come across to the world to resonate with that? And that is your personal brand. Your personal brand is how you look, how you sound, the tone of voice, your style, the way you dress, everything about you that is visible and audible from the rest of the world. That is your personal brand. Okay. So does that resonate with the thing that you've got going on in your head or in your notebook? The answer will probably be to a point, but not exactly. And so if that is the answer, there's your answer. So where do you need to do some fine tuning? Is it in the clothes that you decided to wear? Is it in the watch that you're wearing? Is it in just the tone of voice? Is it in, I need to listen more than I talk? Is it in, I need to just be a little bit more patient? Or what else? There will be a big long list probably. And again, just emphasizing this is all part of an ongoing journey. It's not a destination. And you can change your personal brand pretty much whenever you want to. You can do those little fine-tuning things. But the key thing here is any change that you do make, watch and listen. What impact does it have? Does it take you in the direction you want to be going, or is it an inhibitor? Because you won't get everything right first time. But as long as you're mindful and aware of where it took you, the job is done. And it is okay to pivot. This was my final kind of point that I wanted to mention to you. It is okay to pivot. If you go through this experience and you go and do this deep dive into yourself and you identify, look, I'm really not happy. This is really not going where I need it to go. I need to change. It might be I need to go backwards. So I need to pivot through 180 degrees and go back a few steps and begin again. Or it could be, I just need to kind of fine tune this thing, but I'm going to turn through 90 degrees and I'm going to go over there. It's your choice. It's your life. You have this one opportunity here to make this life really work for you. So it is okay to pivot, but do it in a conscious, mindful way. Take into account all of these different options that you've got and get, as we've said, the right people around you to help you to get on this journey that you're then going to be going forward in. So that's it. There is our 8-point career plan. Manifest your dream career through thinking deeply about your ideal day in the life of. Do go through all those P's, that extended marketing mix. That's really, really quite important. And build this kind of portfolio mindset. You might be really passionate about the job you do, but what are those things that sit around it that allow you to showcase the broader, more complete you? and think about that broader, complete you. How are you going to continuously develop it? Because it is part of your personal brand, this ongoing thirst for self-improvement, self-development. You're listening to this, you're watching this, you're part of this kind of thought process. You are going through this right here, right now. So this is part of developing you. Even as I've been listening to myself speak here, there's a couple of things I'm going to take away from this as I've been talking. And I don't know where this comes from, but it's a bit of a subconscious thing. I've just noted that there's a couple of things I do need to do as well and remind myself of. So we're all on the journey. There is nobody who's cracked this, and that's the beauty of it. It's an ongoing thing for as long as you want it to be ongoing. So enjoy the journey. And if you feel at any point you need to change or pivot, it's your life, it's your career, and you can. So that's kind of where I wanted to kind of take this to. So any further questions or points or observations that you have? Whilst you write those, if you have any, in the little chat box, I'm just going to tell you about the next one, which is in 2 weeks' time. We're going to build on some of the stuff that we talked about a couple of webinars ago when we did event management skills. We're going to do event marketing skills, and I'm going to take a journey through marketing of an event. And I'm going to take you through an example, and it will hopefully apply to any kind of event that you manage, whether that's a big giant conference or a festival or exhibition, right the way down to actually managing a small team meeting. So yeah, hopefully that'll be good for you. And that's on the 22nd of April. Usual place to find that, marketingcollege.com/events. So I had a question come through on the chat from Daniel. Is there any circumstance in which the steps would be taken out of order, ignored, or repeated? Is it a flexible process? Brilliant question. No, it's a completely flexible process. You don't have to worry about the order of the steps. And the reason I say that is, one, obviously, this is a linear webinar. So the only way really I could do it and keep some semblance of order and a flow in my narrative was to do it in that order. You can do it in any order at all. One of the first things you might want to do is just think, where am I? And maybe just begin with that question, which was about halfway through. So maybe just a recap of kind of, where am I? The good, the bad, and the indifferent. And just kind of maybe build it out from there. I would say probably the quicker you can get into Ikeguy as a process is probably the good one, because that will uncover some stuff that maybe is right at the back of your mind. You might not have really been thinking about that one too much at all. But being super honest, whatever your answers come out with that Ikeguy process, that is the key. Don't give yourself the answers that yourself thinks it wants to hear. Be super honest with yourself. You don't have to show anybody else. This is totally personal to you. So you can hide it away. You can even burn the piece of paper that it's on, or delete it if you're doing it on screen. So yeah, be super honest with yourself. And sometimes that can be uncomfortable. When you go through a process like this, planning in this kind of style, sometimes it gets bumpy. Sometimes I have been through this kind of a process with people and I have seen tears, I promise you. It's not necessarily the most comfortable exercise, but what comes out, the whole kind of feeling of expansion and opportunity at the other end, if you're willing to go there, the more you can become vulnerable, the better the outcome on the other side. So long-winded answer, Daniel, but thank you for your question. Yes, it can be done in any order at all, but I would begin with a, where am I? And then I would do the Ikeguy, and then you can kind of then sort of take the other little tools that, in the process that you want to. Any other final observations or questions that you have? No, okay, great. Well, thank you very much for coming along. I hope you found that one useful. Slightly off-piste topic, and I've dealt with it in a slightly less typical way you would have imagined I might have done in this one, but I think those kind of building blocks really, really do work. And I've kind of, I've been there, seen it, done it myself, and I'm actually on one of those journeys myself at the moment as well. So, I know this stuff does work. So if you can kind of ease yourself into that process, but I think the final point really is the key to all of this is finding quality time with yourself, for yourself. Don't rush this, honor the time, honor yourself. And there is no better way really for, you know, having a really great time and really getting a deeper level of understanding. You know, one of my mantras is mindful living. This is what it's all about, is taking the time for you. And if you can do that, I think there will be an incredibly powerful, very unique and personal plan for you, for your career, but it might also uncover some stuff lifestyle as well. I know we focused on career here, but you could use all these things as well in your outside life. So thank you so much for joining. I'll see you again, hopefully on the 22nd of April, and enjoy the rest of your day.